Greetings, everyone. This is the Hipster Snek, joined this fine day by my good buddies Clockwork Fiction and Ditaku.
Hello.
I am
Carrie
here.
has finally arisen over the hills.
And I have a doodle with me.
Excellent.
An attack doodle.
Yes, and
An assault doodle, if you will.
I'm actually taking care of two puppers myself right now.
Well, he is all black, and he is very scary, as you just informed me.
He is the void. Yes. Fear him.
He's not actually that scary. He's a very friendly little doodle.
No, and we are here today with another most excellent podcast episode of the Tomodachi Bros podcast, Season 3. We have been really, really excited. Season 3 has been going great. You guys have been giving us a great response and reception to all the cool stuff we're doing. So we're glad that you guys enjoy this more experimental kind of season. I'm going to apologize in advance because my audio is going to be all over the place. I'm traveling at the moment, kind of. I don't have my normal gear, and I'm not at my normal recording room. So you guys now know why I might sound the way I do. That said, I have a small sliver of nerd news to share, and I'm really, really pumped because for once it's something good. I discovered this short YouTube animation series called Angel Hair. And I'm not going to go into it. I'm not going to review it here. I am just saying it's super good. It's hair, H-A-R-E, like the rabbit. Look it up. It's super good. It is just really, really, really engaging stuff. And you guys owe it to yourself to check it out. That's my bit. You guys got anything?
I watched an anime called Onimusha on Netflix. I talked with them about it, but to kind of give just a brief, the brief rundown, the story is very shallow. I know it's based on a video game. I don't know how much there's a story is actually in the video game. I've only played bits and pieces of it. I have to say the shining moment is the art style. The art style is really, really nice. The animation is all CGI, so it is jarring just when you start out watching it. So you might have to kind of get used to how everybody moves and acts and everything. The ending is probably one of the worst plot void, I should say, of an ending I have ever seen in anything. It's literally we ran out of money and time here. Everybody is within certain parameters somewhere. Okay, there you go. And I'm like, oh god.
All right. Okay.
Hopefully they're not going to make this season 2. They're not going to get season 2 out of that because there's almost nowhere to go. No, and the villain, if there was a villain, was literally nothing, unfortunately, too. So,
awesome.
Can't recommend it.
All right, Master Ditaku.
I mean, it was Thanksgiving, so that was fun. I really don't have anything in terms of news. I mean, apart from the fact that, honestly, I had this long conversation. I basically had this weird situation happen to me earlier in the week where I was going to sleep and I had this, my brain is just like, hey, Wally? I'm like, yeah, that movie that I haven't seen in like 10 years. Yeah. So why did they have giant compactor robots on the starship? And I'm like, brain, I don't need this right now. And they're like, think about it. Why did they need it? If they're on a starship and they haven't been to Earth in centuries, what are they compacting? Because wouldn't they necessitate them to basically recycle everything? Yes, brain, that would be a thing. So where are they getting all these resources from? I don't know. Maybe they have mining or farming. Oh, Ditaku. Human society in Wally is all about consumerism. They wouldn't do that. Yeah, that's true, brain. That is very true. And so on and on and on. And basically, I finally just explained this to these guys, and they basically are all like, I don't know. And so we all more or less assume, we all just kind of came to the conclusion that we don't know. So, if you have an idea as to why they had giant robots, by all means, I'd like to hear it, because it is still something that's just kind of stumped me.
Pause the video here, go to the comment section, and tell us how the space colony ship in WALL-E was supposed to work. Do let us know.
Yeah, because for instance, if it was like Ladder in Battle Angel Alita, where there actually is this extremely hedonistic consumerist society, but they are constantly hoovering up resources from the surface of the planet, that makes sense. But it either is self-sufficient and doesn't have any intake of resources, or it's hugely consumerist, but it requires intake. But they can't be both.
Checks out. All right, so let's get into tonight's topic. And Master Yutaku, why don't I let you spearhead us into this one, because I believe you picked this week's topic out of our hat-holding topic list.
It wasn't a hat. It literally was just me going, hey, guys, we should talk about this, as it usually is.
Yes.
Well, basically, as I said before, this was Thanksgiving, and excuse me, I'm burping. And I basically spent all of last couple days watching movies, films with my family, and ordinarily it would be Lord of the Rings, but for whatever reason, we decided to sit down and watch all of the Harry Potter films.
Right.
And I really have nothing against Harry Potter. It was never my favorite book series ever. That would be Dune. The 6 Dune films. No, the books by Frank Herbert. That's over.
Yeah, it sounds like a little bit of a decline in movie choice, to be honest.
Enough. Thank you. Sorry. I have a Chesapeake Bay Retriever who is very scary, but she's a giant chicken, and she has to, tell people that she's very scary. So, and so basically I was just going through, I was watching them, and I kind of came to the same conclusion I did about 12 years ago once I finished reading books. Wow, that was very underwhelming. And I just wanted to talk about that because I just was like, Harry Potter is a huge deal, but at the same time, honestly, it just, I don't know, maybe it's just me, but it just feels like there was a huge ball that was just dropped really right at the end. And so, just have a discussion about that and see where that takes us.
No, that sounds good, because this is a huge cultural touchstone. You guys got to remember, for context, I am ancient. All right, I am an old man. I have a beard that goes down to my knees, and I don't even have knees, so you know how long this beard is. And I have a scepter with an hourglass at the top, just to represent how timeless and immortal I am. So, you must understand, when Harry Potter first came out in book form, I'm not even talking the movies, that was several years down the road, I was in 7th grade. I was in middle school. You guys, it's been a minute.
I went down to the Borders bookstore on his Triceratops in order to then go to the malt shop.
As the children of youth did at the time. Here's the thing, I didn't even get into it right away. When my friends were getting into the first 2 Harry Potter books, my mother had introduced me to A Wrinkle in Time, which, by the way, is vastly superior read, and they have yet to make a movie adaptation that is worth anything compared to the experience that is reading the actual book. Though, admittedly, some portions of the film would be incredibly difficult to make.
I was about to say, I don't think even the 2018 film really captured the one bit where they go to the two-dimensional planet.
Yeah, no,
and like actually explain like how alien and jarring it is for the protagonist to suddenly go from like, oh, I'm a little 12-year-old girl to why can't I breathe? Why does my heart not work? Yeah.
Yeah, and this weird, deep exploration of physics and all these other things. Fantastic series, by the way. Fun side story, real quick. I read the sequel, Swiftly Tilting Planet, when I had a really, really bad case of pneumonia and bronchitis. I was on a small pharmacy worth of drugs at the time, and as a result, I thought it was a fever dream. I didn't think the book was real. And it was years and years later, I revisited it, and no, it's still weird. I was clearly remembering what actually happened in that book, and it's really that weird. That said, when the third Harry Potter book came out, my friends were like, dude, Snek, you got to read this. And I'm like, okay. I've read The Hobbit, The Lord of the Rings, The Silmarillion. I do love fantasy. So maybe this urban fantasy thing, let's see how that holds up. And I got through the first 3 books, and of those, I would say the third book was probably the strongest. And then I got about halfway into the... What do you even describe this book as? Goblet of Fire could be used as a bludgeon to kill an intruder who breaks into your house, because they introduce time travel story elements and do a really bad job with it. So half the book is trying to introduce the concept, and half of it's trying to retcon itself. And I couldn't finish it. It was bad.
Snek. No, the time travel was in the third book.
I don't even remember. It's been a long time. I read the books like one time each. Went, yeah, that's pretty okay. Then I was like, not as good, but pretty okay. Third book, I was like, oh, that was pretty good. Wizard Jail is a neat idea. Fourth book was like, this is bad. I hate this. And then it dawned on me, I just read the same book 3 times. It's the same story. And evil takes summer vacation because it would be really inconvenient to the pacing of the book if Voldemort just, I don't know, got a gun and shot Harry on summer vacation. Yeah, not a fan. I gave up at that point. I was forced to see the Goblet of Fire movie part 1. And I was like, yeah, that's every bit as bad as I imagined it would be, because it's bad. It's really bad. And I'll get more into why later. I've kind of been hogging the stage for a bit, so why don't I pass the mic over to Master Clockwork?
I've read all of the books on so I'll preface this with a small lead up. When I was first getting into the working world, I was given a temp job at a school to be a temporary receptionist for financial aid. And there was so little work to do because it was summer that I was like, can I bring a book or something to read? I am literally so bored out of my mind. And they said, that's fine. Since you seem to do all of our work so fast and you can actually do the work. Well, I won't get into that part. So I read all of them. And to be perfectly honest, out of the what is it, 3, 6, 8, 9 books? No, I think that some of these are the new one. Of them is the newer one. I think there's 7 books.
There's 7.
The original? Yes.
There's 7.
Yeah, because I'm looking at the list now and I'm like, I don't recognize that last book. I think that was the one that came out really recently, or at least somewhat recently. And I don't remember I remember Sorcerer's Stone, Chamber of Secrets, Goblet of Fire, and I thought the Prisoner of Azkaban was kind of cool too. But half of the other ones, I barely remember anything of the rest. It's just like, I don't know if at one point I was just overloaded. I overloaded my brain just reading and trying to remember everything. And at one point, or it kind of all blend together, or was that I got that kind of bland in a sense, because at one point or another, I'm like, these are kind of like all the same sort of scenarios we keep seeing. They don't really what's the word? They don't really change all that much, because you have what you go from he being like he is really good at Quidditch, and then one he goes to like an official Quidditch tournament at one of the books, and then he gets attacked, and then like I think everything starts out like kind of the same and way. Almost every single book is just like he's going to go do something, and then something happens, and then we get introduced to the antagonist of the book, who is also being led by Hugh must not be named, and he shows. And one of the pet peeves I have is that once you show the villain, if you're going to have him be a giant secret and a misty kind of ghost for a while and kind of have this weird kind of horror theme, after you show him, you got to kind of do something with him. I mean, yeah, I don't remember him doing a lot, to be perfectly honest. I remember I think he killed one or two people, but he didn't really do much else after that. And he kind of hung around a little too long for being a spooky ghost for a bit. So I was like, okay, I guess I can. But again, this is me trying to remember everything from back then. I watched some of the movies and I thought they were all right for what they are, but to be perfectly honest, as I was starting to get into like as these fine folks started to introduce me into and help me get into like D&D and Exalted and Shadowrun and stuff I wasn't able to do before, I realized it's kind of there's a lot of extra fantasy I didn't know out there that I feel does stuff better than what I'm used to, what I'm used to reading and stuff like that. So
fair,
at least book wise. So but as Snek was saying, the Goblet of Fire I thought was good. I thought the Prisoner of Azkaban was pretty good too, because a prisoner who escaped one of the like the hard, like the Fort Knox. No, that's not the word I'm looking for, but you know what I mean.
You're probably thinking not Fort Knox. That's where they hide the gold.
Yes,
my man. No.
But you know what I mean. That story kind of hung to me a bit as well. But yeah, everything else was kind of blended together at that point, and I really couldn't pull anything except for I think he made like his own little order at one point. Order of the Phoenix, that's what it was. He made his own little order, and then it quickly got like disbanded or squashed because someone found out where his little hidey spot was.
Yeah. So, I mean, now, Ditaku, you have not talked about your history with the books.
I mean, basically, I wasn't in the country when they were getting popular. My father had been transferred overseas, and so I was not around when they were really getting big. And so once I came back to the States, and everyone's like, "Oh my goodness, Harry Potter!" I'm like, "What's Harry Potter?" I mean, I was reading ever since I was little. I had been reading like Lord of the Rings and Narnia and said other. I am having a brain fart right now. It's not not Wrinkle in Time, like you were saying, with which is quite excellent, by the way. Phantom Tollbooth, that was the one.
Oh, okay.
Excellent book. Very good. Probably one of the few things that I would say actually is kind of meta-textual that is actually decent. But I think that's also because it kind of uses it for humorous purposes rather than like, trying to be all intelligent about it. Also, I mean, everyone actually, I think, really should benefit from just being more curious and more intelligent. Ultimately, that is something everyone can learn and benefit from. So, yeah, I thought that the first three books were quite good, and the fourth one was actually the one that was like the most most recent. Sorry, by the time that I got into it, and definitely I could say that there's kind of a crescendo moment up to the third book. The fourth book kind of was just coasting at that like emotional high. I thought it was all right, but the fifth book really was the one that I think broke the spell for me, because it basically boiled down to there's an enemy. He's out there, but we can't tell we can't talk about it because the enemy is out there. And oh, by the way, I'm like, but I'm the big important person. Yes, Harry, you are the big important person. Pat, no, I want to be the center of attention. No, Harry, you can't be the center of attention anymore. And I was just thinking to myself, I'm like, that's fair. That's fair. You can't be the center of attention anymore, Harry. Sorry, the world has to move on. Except that he can't. He couldn't just let it go. And while some people would argue that this is, a good thing, and I mean, I suppose it ultimately is. He came off as like just kind of a brat, which is weird for the fact that he's supposed to be like the most humble and likable person. And yet he's like complaining all the time about nobody pays attention to me anymore. So I don't know. Also, the fact that like,
go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say also Dumbledore's army is like the most ineffectual, like quote unquote freedom fighter situation ever. So
I think the one thing that you brought up that I had kind of forgotten about, and maybe was the whole time travel thing. If I remember correctly, I think it was I believe Dumbledore gave it to Hermione, was the hourglass where if you flip it over, you can reverse time, and it was given to her so that way she could take like double the coursework of any other students in the school, because that was the thing that you could do. And in my brain, I was like, that is a very dangerous tool to give somebody like that. And I understand Hermione is supposed to be like the order of the chaos of the group, the chaotic group in a way, since they're all the other two are all kind of bumbly and getting into a bunch of craziness and everything. But I'm still like, there's no like time police, I'm assuming. Like, what's not to stop somebody from anything? You know what I mean?
Including trivializing the entire point of the story. If they have time artifacts, you go back in time and you off Voldy when he's still a young man. Problem solved.
See, here's the thing. That's the funny thing, is that basically you could kind of see as the third book goes, it's like, I have this great idea. And she's like, oh yeah, and this allows my bookworm character to like become really smart. And then she realizes by the end of the third book, is like, oh no, this is actually really powerful. And I didn't actually think about the mechanics of the way that these things work. And so at that point, canonically, they were just kind of like, oh yeah, all the time twisters were destroyed. That's it. Done. They're not around anymore.
Magically, every single one without fail was rounded up and just incinerated.
Yeah, so the entire the Harry Potter and the Cursed Child revolves around time travel, and the use of these artifacts is entirely non-game. And honestly is really bad to begin with, because I don't want to think about, the fact that it basically is the same problem I have with Palpatine, where it's like, yeah, you just kind of have to imagine, just this creepy old guy like, yes, I banged someone. You're like, I don't want to think about that.
I also want to point out in the first book that it seems they have a weird thing with very, very powerful artifact, because it's literally Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. They literally have a stone, but I believe it's the Sorcerer's Stone, aka I think they also refer to as the Philosopher's Stone.
Is the Philosopher's Stone term.
Yeah. And it's this really powerful art to keep anybody from dying. And in the end, they realize, oh, we need to destroy it. And I'm like, then what was the point of picking it up from the bank and then taking it and housing it in Hogwarts. If you thought it was gonna be more safe, why not just destroy it outright anyway? I'm like, if he can get through into one of the most powerful or most secure banks, then what is, a school with a bunch of kids running around and everything going to really? I didn't understand the logic in that either.
Well,
especially when he had a mole.
Okay, I'm gonna put it this way. First off, it's because the plot wouldn't work otherwise. Okay, that's the ultimate main reason. Secondly, the only thing I can think of is, if we're talking about like in setting, in universe, the only thing I could think of is that first off, it's an incredibly magical, and there are all sorts of enchantments and charms on the place. Like, for instance, you can't teleport into it, and there are only very specific ways you can get there. On top of that, like, who's going to think about, like, oh yes, I'm going to think about, like treasure troves of where like incredibly powerful artifacts would be. You don't think children's boarding school. So that's my one thing.
Yet they have a time traveling device in there too.
As I recall, that was loaned to them by the not magical prime minister.
Oh,
so yeah,
it's been a while since I've read the books.
Yeah, you probably should. Yeah, no, you probably should go back and reread them.
I probably should,
and stop just constantly rereading Full Metal Alchemist again and again and again and again. Like, wow, I sure do like Scar blowing up people.
That is kind of a recurring theme throughout the books, is if it doesn't involve child endangerment, Dumbledore just doesn't want anything to do with it. This man who is supposed to be a wizened older gentleman who understands the way of the very, very, very British wizard world just keeps throwing these children repeatedly into danger and doing sweet nothing about it every single time something happens.
See, this is the reason why I really like the, Dumbledore the Stoner comics. Professor Dumbledore, all the children are getting stoned. And it's just him in his Rastafarian hat. He's like, no, not that type of stoned.
Oh my gosh.
To square that circle, honestly, I get this sense, and a lot of people kind of got this sense as well, that Dumbledore was supposed to be ultimately a malevolent force, and that, his whimsy in the first couple books was actually just kind of a veneer to off-put the fact that this guy is actually way more dangerous than he lets on. And ultimately, Dumbledore is like, oh, yes, Dumbledore was the only one that the Dark Lord feared. And it's like, well, yeah, because this guy is really strong and really powerful and really dangerous. And, he's a kooky old man, except that, he's not. He's actually really powerful and really scary and really dangerous. Kind of the same thing that you see with Netero in Hunter x Hunter. He's just a kooky old man until you actually start learning more about him, and you're like, basically he made the hunting organization to basically foster a newer generation of fighters, so then he could actually get new people to fight.
Or, the Darth Sith Lord Jar Jar Binks. Same idea.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah. I do not ascribe to that. As funny as it is, I do not ascribe to that theory.
At best, it's a meme. I know. It's a meme.
Although, I gotta say, honestly, I never really had any strong feelings on Jar Jar. He's just kind of there for me.
Yeah.
He didn't really, I'm like, oh, no, Jar Jar Binks, I hate this. It's like, I mean, the Ewoks were kind of obnoxious, too. I didn't dislike them. So,
now, you know what also is an amazing meme? Was Dumbledore flying in wearing an Avril Lavigne t-shirt and cursing people out just randomly. Yeah, I'm making an aside to the second best fan fiction ever written.
What the F are you doing, you mother effers?
You dense
He said
mother
calmly.
effers, he said calmly. And he had a headache, so it's definitely not his fault.
And I will not continue this until I get 5 new reviews.
If you know, you know. If you don't know, we're not explaining it.
Ebony Dementia Raven Way just was not bad grammar and English. It was pioneering new grammar and new. Okay.
Without us realizing it, Ed Nobby was basically just the front runner for the Zoomerisms we have to tolerate now.
FR. We got the Riz.
Oh, Jesus.
Fangs. Get it? Because I'm gothic.
FR. But I gotta ask though, does Anobi have the Riz?
I mean, she must, seeing as how she had Darko take her virility. Yes, I've read it all the way through multiple times. I can do this.
Okay. But would Anobi team up with John Freeman?
Oh, I don't think the world is ready for that level of absolute mastercraft of fan fiction. Also, alas, John Freeman died in order to save the Hummins. He is forever the saver of Hummins, and truly sad. Well, we'll do an episode about him someday. Okay, so now the part that Ditaku has likely been waiting for. Let me tell you all what I don't like about Harry Potter. And spoiler alert before the weird Politico branch comes into the fray. It has nothing to do with the author. Everything has to do with the in-universe explanation of everything, basically. Because here's the thing that irritates me to no end is, for some reason, urban fantasy likes magic to be small and contained and put into little convenient boxes. You know what the most powerful spell in the Harry Potter universe is? You point your wand at someone, you say a particular chant, and if you have line of sight on them, they die. You know what does that?
I was about to say.
Infinitely better? A gun.
I was about to say, you're like, what's the strongest spell? I'm like, Axio Gun.
Gun 3, yes. Because the magic in Harry Potter...
I'm sorry, I was about to say, I'm sorry, I cast Summon Raccoon 3. I win.
The trash pandas come out heavily armed and dangerous. Yep. See, the magic system in Harry Potter is small. Everything is, you have to have your magic stick. You have to say the magic words. You have to point at it. You have to have this huge wind-up that would make the summoner rotation in Final Fantasy XIV look brisk. Why? Why does magic suck so hard? Like, I remember Ditaku actually pointed this out to me, that in one of the movies, like, there's a wizard stirring his tea just by pointing his finger at it, and people are like, oh, this guy's like some god-tier wizard, like, absolute master.
All right. To be fair, and I actually brought this up to Noodle because we were watching it together. He actually came over for Thanksgiving. And so we were watching that, and I actually brought that up when I saw it. I'm like, oh yeah, that's the guy. That's the god tier wizard that everyone. And so Noodle brought up and clarified something, and I'm like, oh, okay, that makes a lot of sense. The entire thing with wandless magic is that you have to be entirely focused on what you're doing. But this guy is also reading a Stephen Hawking book. Excuse me. I should not be doing this while also drinking soda. Probably I have a Sprite here. No, it is killing me.
Probably not.
It is killing me.
God can crucify you alongside me.
So anyways, the entire thing is this guy is reading theoretical physics while also doing wandless magic. So he is simultaneously multitasking while also completely focused on something that's really difficult for even expert wizards, and also reading an incredibly difficult text on physics. This guy is a master multitasker, and honestly is like just his level of control would make him incredibly dangerous as a wizard duelist. And yet he's just like a background character that's just like, oh yeah, no, he's just there.
You know that phrase about how the story you're telling should be the most important and significant moment in your character's life? It's kind of like that, but for characters. I want to know what this guy's deal is. He's way more interesting than everyone else.
See, this is the reason why I never had any preconceived notions as a dungeon master, because inevitably what would happen is I would be like, oh yeah, so here's the railroad that I'm going to lay out, just a little, here's the path. And then they're like, no, this guy over here, Jimmy, yeah, he's really interesting. We want to help Jimmy. Okay, I'm just here though.
No, we love you, Jimmy. we will definitely pay all of our attention to you.
And so, yeah, it basically just, so that's why, because all my players are ADD and they just do not latch on to whatever hints I give them.
No, we refuse. So that said, like, magic in this world is small, it is stupid, and most offensively of all, this small, weak, stupid magic system creates enormous amounts of bureaucracy. The wizards are isolated from the rest of the world because their small, stupid, pointless magic system makes them so above it all and so super-duper special that they literally have to just hide constantly in order to practice this small, stupid magic system, which, by the way, is entirely genetic, by the way. Race realism is real in Harry Potter, apparently. And if you don't have the right parents, you suck. And you don't get to participate in the small, stupid magic system. And yet, despite all these defensive wards, despite all of these counter spells, despite all this defense against the dark arts, literally nothing protects wizards from Gun 3. Like, there's never at any point been a reason why Harry couldn't just pack heat and become dirty Harry Potter and just shoot Voldemort in his stupid no-nose having face. There's no explanation for it. He just doesn't.
The thing that always got me was the fact that he very early on learns a spell which will atomize things and just cause them to turn to dust.
Yeah.
Yet no one ever thinks to weaponize this and just go, reducto and just fry someone and turn them into dust. Star Trek just, vaporize them. No one does that, but everyone's like, oh, a Avada Kedavra is going to kill someone and it tears your soul apart because killing is against nature. And you literally realize that nature is all about killing, right?
Nature is all about murder, dude. Does it say nothing of the fact that you have weird torture camps? Let's talk about Azkaban, because, that's several war crimes and human rights violations right there. We lock you in super insanity jail, and, you just suffer. Do we have an appeals process? No, you just suffer forever.
And on top of that, we have literal Nazguls. We don't even ever talk about where the Dementors come from or what their deal is. But we just have evil ghosts, evil soul-sucking ghosts that just are somehow something that we can control, and also will just slowly consume all of these people that we just put on this one island. Yay!
And this is celebrated. Harry at no point is like, guys, maybe don't. make evil, crazy, soul-sucking Alcatraz into being a thing. He doesn't care. As soon as the one named character is no longer imprisoned there, he's like, yeah, no, I'm fine with this. It's fine. It's fine.
See, honestly, that is kind of my main problem with Harry Potter as a character, is that he enters this incredibly stratified, contradictory society as an outsider, and he goes, this is really messed up. And there's a lot of times where he's just like, yeah, this is really messed up, but he just doesn't really do anything about it. His one friend that actually is like, yo, enslaving sentient creatures, not a good look. We really shouldn't do that. And everyone's like, oh, Hermione, you're so wacky. And it's like, I don't know. I think she has a point, but,
she raises...
That's about it.
Raises a fair point. We're not going to do anything about this.
Yeah, Harry is really passive in his own series, and that's kind of that's my problem. Is that for a protagonist, he really does not go forward, and he's not even really proactive in him trying to become an Auror. It's just like, oh yeah, I'm going to do that. That's going to be what I do want to do. But I gotta stop, evil wizard man.
I want to become Wizard FBI. Are you going to use this as your chance to fix the system from within? No. Are you going to do anything about any of these atrocities? No. You don't care that your entire stratified society is based almost exclusively on genetics that you can't control, which will inevitably lead to weird wizard marriages where nobody involved is particularly happy with the end result? No, I'm not going to worry about any of that. I don't care. It doesn't affect me.
See, I get the sense that magic potential isn't actually genetic because, you notice a lot of Muggle-born wizards, to use their parlance. I don't really like the entire, Muggle, not Muggle distinction that they really harp on about.
It's a stupid word. I'm sorry. I'm going to say true facts here. It's a stupid word. Trying to force it just makes it dumber.
But yeah, so I don't get that sense that it's genetic. Much like force manipulation turned out to be. I just get that sense that it's something that's kind of inherent to whatever that person is. And even then, you'll notice in wizarding families, certain people just can't use magic. So yeah.
And yet, if you have one wizard parent and one non-wizard parent, it's okay to be racist against them.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, in some ways, it's worse, because if both your parents are not magically inclined, but you are, no one seems to care. At least not in the first half of the series. I don't know about the latter half.
They kind of lean more into it there because they go more into the politics of basically the fact that there's 12 major families. The problem being is that a lot of them are just kind of have warred themselves to death. For instance, the most glorious and noble House of Black, which is where Sirius Black comes from. It's he's literally the last member of that family. And yet this is one of the 12 major families that are supposedly the linchpin of magical society in Great Britain. And yet, yeah, he's the last member. Which leads me to the theory that you might not entirely be off the mark when you start talking about, marriages which the end result is not, something that makes anybody happy.
Yeah, funny enough, they actually talk about that, and of all things, My Hero Academia. It's quirk marriages became a thing because people wanted to combine quirk attributes. And it's if you had a society where two magically inclined parents were much more likely to have magically inclined children, and there was a huge stigma against a lot of the other options, that would happen. And it would happen against their wishes because it would be such a big deal in this ingrained society, which clearly has not had a Reformation period ever by the sound of it. It's never brought up near to my knowledge anyway.
Yeah. So, that's my main thing. And But I mean, as I've kind of alluded to, I mean, this is the professor's white whale. He really does not like Harry Potter.
Because, like, here's the thing. I see the glimmer of good ideas hidden under a mountain of really terrible ones. It's one of those situations where I'm like, okay, your premise is at least halfway decent. Secret magical society hidden away from normies. Okay, cool. We can work with that. Why does everything surrounding it suck? Like, I sincerely get the impression that both author and fandom alike were more interested in who was going to smooch who versus an actual cogent story. Because you manage to make characters that aren't interesting. They're not. I'm sorry, they're not. You have made a magic system that isn't good, compelling, interesting, or in any ways meaningful. If magic was that weak, it's entirely possible that it would have been phased out once technology started going on the rise, because it doesn't serve any particularly interesting or meaningful purpose. And if science got its hands on these magical beasts and plants and all this other weird stuff that Wizarding World has, which they eventually would, by the way, like, they could probably do more with it. Magic in Harry Potter is so fundamentally weak and useless, it would probably get phased out. It's just not good. The thing is,
though, it's not so much the magic as it is the fact that they never considered using it for instance, actually, people brought up the fact that it's like they have actual honest-to-God teleportation, and they basically have free energy forever through the use of magic. And yet they never considered that it's like you literally could produce perfect, like, renewable energy and perfect, like, manufacturing of items, just like make it incredibly cheap. And yet they never consider it like that's what something that they could do. Well, yes, the ability there's no like I cast, cruise missile 3 in order to like blow someone up. There are other applications of the Harry Potter magic that would make it incredibly useful. And I get the sense that someone like Henry Ford or like John D. Rockefeller, if they're like, oh yes, they have like a wizarding wand, would be able to do some pretty crazy things.
Oh, almost certainly.
But they'd be thinking about it instead of in terms of making money rather than whatever it is the Wizarding World which seems to do, which is, I don't know, they seem to be just kind of be like content to hide.
Yeah, that's the thing. They don't seem to do anything, and they don't seem to care. In fact, one of the ways that Voldemort easily could have thrown a very big wrench into the hero's plan was simply go public. Tell the world, yeah, magic's real. There's an entire magic school. I can show you exactly where it is.
Oh my goodness, that would have been really cool, actually, if like Voldemort ran for prime minister or like petitioned to become a peer. Oh my goodness, that would have been good.
Like, the only thing that ultimately stopped Voldemort was like the weird fact that the spell he used had a weird caveat tied to it. I had it explained to me and I still don't fully understand, but like all he had to have done is like, magic's real. Magic school's right over there. I'm going to tell you all about it. Why? Because these people are scary, and I can tell you all about it. Because I'm a nice person.
It's even dumber than that, dude. It's even dumber than that.
Really?
It's the fact that he's like, I want to be an immortal wizard. I'm going to have this really complicated plan. Now, pardon me when my complicated plan blows up in my face. And I proceed to kill myself because I try and kill the small child that is, prophesied to be my undoing.
All you had to have done... Yeah, I was going to say, all you would have had to have done is just move to a different country and leave him alone, and it never would have happened.
Yeah, if he just did not put any bunk into this one particular prophecy, it never would have happened. He would have been, a dark, evil wizard lord, for much longer.
So he would have fit in with the politicians just fine. So, I mean, it would have been great for him. I mean, Dumbledore would be pretty cross, but like Voldemort's, oh yeah, no, I'll tell you guys all about magic. Magic is just science. Let me tell you all about it. That would be a much more interesting take on the setting.
So anyways there, Professor, why don't you talk about your, magic teenager wizard thing?
All right.
And we can also talk about the fact that, you succeeded where Harry Potter failed with the fact that your protagonist actually shacks up with the attractive Asian girl.
Okay. To be fair, I'd never followed the Potter shipping wars, so I don't fully understand the joke there. But I am working on an urban fantasy story about wizards in the modern setting, and a lot of it was ideas I've had for a while that I've been refining into this story, and part of it is my general disdain with modern urban fantasy, and how half of it ends up being really stupid and juvenile, and the other half is just random, uninteresting women shacking up with werewolves. So, yeah. My story, tentatively titled Wizards of Houston, is about, shocker, wizards living in modern-day Houston, Texas. And I picked Houston because it is a big city. It is the fourth largest city in the United States, for those who don't know. It is very metropolitan. It has a lot of industry, science, technology, and exports and imports going there. It's a very busy place. I have been many times. It's very interesting. Would never live there in a million years, but I find the city undeniably fascinating. So, that said, my main character is Nathan Bernard Baker. And the name was chosen because he was supposed to be of British descent. That's not a Harry Potter thing. I just wanted his family to be of British descent. That was my entire explanation. It comes up later on because Nathan ends up getting involved with realizing that wizards exist, magic exists, and ergo, monsters exist. He is attacked by monsters and saved at the last second by one Grover Callahan. And Grover is one of my favorite characters to write because he is an ancient wizard who always has a chip on his shoulder. So writing his dialogue is good fun. Now, imagine Jitaku, but much older and much crankier, and to the point where, shooting straight whiskey just doesn't do it for him anymore. That's Callahan. And Callahan ends up taking Nathan under his wing. Nathan has magic aptitude, and one of the things I do bring up is aptitude of the magic depends on the individual. It has no genetic proclivity. It's just, you have it or you don't. You either have the talent for it or you don't. Get over it. Even people who sometimes do, don't refine it. Just like some people could have talents to be neurosurgeons, but don't pursue the field for any number of reasons. It's just not their calling. So Nathan learns that there is an entire organized government bureaucracy specifically to use wizards as police forces for things that normal conventional means cannot deal with. You see, monsters are largely just very upsized animals who themselves have magical proclivity, but that makes them very dangerous. It also means they have a passive barrier around them of magical energy, which small arms, fire, and very small knives aren't going to do anything against. You would either need a very high-caliber weapon, or you would need a wizard to demolish those kinds of defenses. So Callahan takes Nathan in and starts explaining to him, hey, this is how magic works. Magic is built upon the philosophy of everything being built out of the four elements: fire, water, earth, air. It's all very simple. Math is involved because magic is basically applied math. Basically, if you combine math and metabolism, you get magic. It's a lot of M's, I know. And Nathan is learning all this as our viewpoint character, and he basically gets to learn that every conspiracy theory, every weird idea, Bigfoot is real, Elvis is still alive, the earth is hollow, aliens have visited Earth repeatedly and have for a long time. All these things are all true. And there's this place called Sector 17, which is the aforementioned government bureaucracy that oversees these things and documents these things and makes contingency plans for these things. And as every good, quote-unquote good government bureaucracy is prone to doing, they have become rotten to the core over the past several centuries and need to be taken down several million pegs into dissolution. That is the basic through line of the story. There's more to come. There's lots more characters to be discovered. I'm not going to go too into it. I am proud of it. It will happen at some point, and I'll be sure to never shut up about it when it does.
And that, you hear to hear, folks. We need to bully him until he makes it happen.
Yeah, maybe I'll make that a real push. By the time this is out, it might already be too late. But sometime in 2024, I am considering reducing the release schedule to Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And if I do that, maybe I'll make it a point to dedicate some of that extra time to getting back to that. I really should. So I guess the point ultimately I'm trying to make in a bit of a roundabout and long-winded fashion is if you're going to have a magical world full of vast, wonderful, magical things, do not stuff it into a tiny box. Do not compartmentalize it. Magic is supposed to be big. It's supposed to be vast. It's supposed to be fascinating. It's supposed to be one part known and one part unknown. There is supposed to be limitless potential. And in a magical world, there should always feel like you could overturn any stone and find something completely brand new underneath it. That is a good magical world. And if you're having an urban fantasy setting, you can still do that, and you should strive to do that. Do not just go, oh, I have elves, I have dwarves, I have orcs. There, it is fantasy, and now I'm going to put Will Smith in it. That's a Bright joke. Bright was a pretty okay film. I liked it. It was
That's
like
on my to-watch list. I haven't watched it yet, but I've been meaning to.
It's like Shadowrun Diet Coke. It was okay. Jitaku and I watched it together. It was pretty entertaining.
Oh, that wasn't I was just laughing at the reference.
No.
That sounds apt.
Yeah, no, that's basically what it is. Like, don't limit yourselves, and especially don't limit yourselves by the genre conventions. You can do more. You can take ideas from other sources, but you have to put some of your own original ideas in the middle of it, or it's just going to look like the same completely uninteresting porridge that's been dumped onto our trays before. And people are usually not too keen when they're served slop. I think that covers the basis, don't you, Master Jitaku?
I think. Oh, there he is.
Yeah, sorry.
Oh, I was like, oh, he died. Oh, that's rough.
No, I have not been ripped in pepperonis yet. I just had to move locations because doggos are getting excited. I don't want to subject you guys to, them complaining that they cannot go out see people.
No, I understand.
So, yeah. I think that I agree with pretty much everything you said. I was listening.
Yeah, you're good.
Honestly, I'm going to actually have to get going here in a little bit.
Not a problem.
Yeah.
Master Clockwork, final thoughts.
I mean, hasn't broken down the books and everything like that as far as you guys have clearly. A lot of stuff I was like, gosh. I didn't have much of a problem. I felt like as I was reading it, like, after the Goblet of Fire, as I think is where everything kind of just starts slowly kind of petering off, and just I didn't feel the real need. Apparently my brain didn't feel the real need to retain as much information after that book. So
that's fair. That checks out. Okay, so I think that's going to bring today's episode to a close. This has once again been Clockwork, Jitaku, and the hipster Snek for the Tomodachi Bros podcast. We swear the other 4 members are alive, and we will force them on here soon-ish. So thank you for joining us for today's episode. Say goodnight, gentlemen.
Summon Raccoon 4.
And we'll see you guys in the next one.
Thank you for listening to the Tomodachi Brothers Review Podcast, produced and recorded by the hipster Snek, Ritaku, and Cog. Sound design and editing by executive producer Sean Taylor Brown with Cog Sound Engineering. Music written and performed by Sean Taylor Brown with Costas Vaz of Core Insight Studio on the drums. We hope you enjoyed this episode. See you next time.